So we're gonna chat for a few. So we'll start with you, old friend. Talk to us a little bit just about the foundation and formation of this idea. Rumor has it that, you know, Oprah's going around and saying this was like the best pitch she's ever heard.
Oh, that's very kind of her.
What was the pitch? Let us know what it was.
This, you saw it. I'm serious. I very much so pitched what you saw in front of you. You know, it was a process of trying to make sure the people in the room in the pitch were aware of and could viscerally get a sense of the propulsion of the show, and that it didn't sort of follow narrative rules as much as it did sort of emotional tracking. And so there was a lot of poetry. There's some poems in it. There were some songs in it. There was some crying in it, unfortunately. That MBJ seemed to enjoy when I did it. I was like, he'd be like, "You crying again, fam?" I'd be like, "Get out of my face." So I think, you know, what was interesting and different about the pitch that maybe Oprah picked up on, I try not to speak for her, is that we were so glad to be amongst stories about Black people. We were so glad to be in the company of a person who was deeply investigating, deeply engaged, deeply fortified in making sure that Black people saw themselves in myriad different experiences.
So now, when did this idea come to you? Like, and was television always like the next entree that you wanted to take after Moonlight?
This show actually was in process before Moonlight, or actually I shouldn't say before Moonlight. Before Moonlight was being filmed specifically, and I had Andre Holland, who was a dear friend of mine, who was actually in Moonlight, played Kevin, and a lot of other things. Andre's amazing. Andre was like, "I want you to come out to LA and write some stuff for a week." And he just sort of paid for me to come to, and again, I had no money. I still got no money. He was like, "I got a couple dollars." And he was like, "Would you come out for a week and write, and just write some ideas out?" And one of the things I wrote about was the time in which I was being bused from the neighborhood that I grew up in, 25 miles to this elite sort of magnet program. How many of you have gone to a magnet program? How many of you were bused from your home to a magnet program? Yeah, a lot of people of color, right? And so that experience of leaving where you're from or your community to go to another community and learn better was an experience. And some of the lessons that I took out of my community into school weren't allowed. And vice versa. Right? I would come back with these things that I had learned, and my neighborhood would go, "What is that?" And so that I thought that was really, it was a moment that was really interesting to me, and would be interesting to a lot of folks, especially because we were born at a time where, you know, busing and magnet programs were all the rage. And so I really wanted to investigate that at the intersection of this young person's life. And I wrote it down. I still have the piece of paper. I wrote it down staying at the SLS. And I wrote it down. Andre always had good taste. And I wrote it down. He does. He's amazing. If you ever want a good gift, get it from Andre Holland. I've opened boxes before and been like, "Fam, this is too much." And I wrote on the little, you know, note paper about this experience and wanting to, but it was not one. But if you know me, you know I don't write a play down until I know the end of it. I don't start writing it. I don't start writing lights up on until I know the ending of the play. I don't do the same with film. Unless I know what the last shot is, I don't write it. I don't start doing it. It's in my head going through that process until I know. And so with this, there kept never being an endpoint. So I knew it was serial. I knew we needed to investigate it in series. And that's how I knew it was for television.
I'm going to hopscotch around on this panel, but I'm going to start with our lead, Akili, and Alana. The relationship between David and Gloria, I think, is something that even in the first episode, it's palpable and you feel it. Talk to us a little bit about the relationship between those two characters and what, for David, he represents to his mom, if that makes sense.
David really just wants to be the backbone for his mother, their support system, because they have a pact together. Even though they go through a lot and she's struggling and he's struggling with school and stuff, they just want to be there for each other at the end of the day.
Yeah. I completely agree with Akili in that, you know, maybe sometimes unfairly so, she looks to David to sort of kind of be her partner in this. And working with Akili has been just amazing because I remember when we first met, it was like instant family. I mean, look at him. He's so sweet and so inspiring. So I'm really glad that you guys could feel that bond because I think, you know, there are a lot of Gloria and Davids, and so I'm glad that you guys could feel that.
Now, y'all are probably like, why is Trace Lysette on this panel? I didn't see her in that entire 90 minutes. Because we've got a sneak peek of episode 2 of the series where you'll see her character and Logan's character. Let's check it out.
And we just hit it off, and I really had no idea he wanted me to be part of this. He just told me one day, I don't remember when or what we were doing, but he was like, oh, I wrote your role. I was like, what? And when I read Femi, I was just like, wow, you know, I never felt this close to a character. You know, I think Femi and the Daughters of the Lot, which you saw, it's a story we know all too well for trans women who turn to survival sex work. And that was my 20s. I was in and out various forms of sex work for over a decade. So I think any time, and I've played a sex worker multiple times, maybe one day I'll be a superhero, but
it's coming.
It's coming. You know, I don't ever have shame about playing it because I've already made my peace with my past. Like, I don't have that baggage anymore. I understand my circumstances and why I had to do what I had to do, being a trans woman from the 90s. And it was a different time. Like, trans wasn't even a word back then. So anytime I get to play a fully realized sex worker that, you know, has shit to say and is not just a character in passing, I jump at the chance because I feel like, if anything, it can help the world understand us even better and see that we're human just like you. Yeah.
Logan, you play Star Child, who he also was just introduced to. Can you describe, you know, who he is and how you connected with the role?
Yeah, okay. Star Child is a young trans man of color who is without a home, doesn't have a great home situation, and ends up falling in with Femi and the Daughters of the Lot for safety and for survival. And I am not in the slightest bit like Star Child. He's quiet, he's watchful, he's wise. I never shut up. And I got lots to say and very little to listen to. And I have an incredibly supportive family, and who have supported me through everything, and they're up there in the corner. And what I really love about Star Child, other than the fact that he is a fully developed character that you can't just describe by being like, oh, he's trans. He has a depth of personality and experience and backstory. I was also drawn to the fact that Star Child teaches David throughout the show, and teaches JG, David's little brother, about what it means to be a man, and the same way that Femi teaches David about how he relates to women. So the trans characters are never treated as being less man or less woman than the cis characters, which was incredible. And it's also just, the character is so authentic. Like just then when the first line you hear someone say about me is, "You need to take less tea," and that's exactly the kind of thing that trans people say to each other. And being on set with a lot of trans actors in that scene was really, you could feel that the characters and the scene was crafted with care and with honesty and with love for the community.
As I already said, you play my favorite character.
Oh,
Miss Elijah. And y'all ain't gets good with Miss Elijah, okay? Talk to us a little bit about what you think Miss Elijah like represents to that community, to the Ville, and why having that character in this particular story is important.
I believe that Miss Elijah is important to the Ville because Miss Elijah represents a character that we all know, that is very authentic in our community. That is not a caricature of what someone is who is, you know, gender non-conforming and living in the projects. You know, it's like everyone knows a Miss Elijah, and it's not about like, oh, I don't respect this person. In fact, Miss Elijah gets respect for being authentic, and that's why she knows everything, you know, and that is, I think, very important because a lot of people believe that it's the other way around, you know, like you don't get respect, but actually, no, that's not how it works. And I know that, you know, Dee and Tarell have talked about in the casting, they were like, you were cast because this isn't the obvious choice for what people think that they see in the community, but really you are. And I was just so grateful to represent that because it was very honest and truthful, and it was something that I grew up with. You know, I mean, my aunts and uncles. I grew up in a different area, but like my extended family, like everyone knew someone in the neighborhood that they respected, and they were like the coolest people in the neighborhood. You would go and you would get your candy and you'd be like, what is different? And it's like, we're not going to talk about it, but like that is something, but we love them, you know, and we love them, and they are pillars of the community. And I think it is important that we tell these stories, and it's not about like the conflict of people like coming out and like that. It's like, no, that is just, it is the base. That is the base of the story. Now, what is the humanity underneath it? Miss Elijah is infallible. You know, they are things that you have to do, scamming and scheming to survive. And, you know, what is that? That conflict, I think, is important to discuss. And that's what Tarell does in his stories. And I mean, it's incredible. I'm so grateful to be a part of this.
As the showrunner, you have your hand in like literally everything, because that's the job. I'm wondering what attracted you to this particular project and your particular connection to it as a Black woman, as one of the few Black showrunners that we have in this industry. What stood out to you about this project and made you say, I need to do this?
The script. Honestly, Tarell's script. I read it. I was already a part of a show that was a limited series called Unsolved, and I took the time to read the script. And my agent sent me scripts all the time, and I literally just stopped and just sat there for a second after I read Tarell's script. And I'm like, okay, I'm about to read the script again. I don't have time, but I'm going to read the script again. Because it spoke to me in such a huge way that I needed to really, because what's great about Tarell's writing and the script, you find different things as you read it each time. So after I read it the second time, I'm like, yes, I gotta have that. I just have to beg them to please wait for me so I can go in and at least, you know, give it my all, because I knew a lot of people were vying for the position. And so when Tarell and I first met, I basically told him that I was the female version of David. You know, that I was bussed, that I went through the same, you know, type of, you know, neighborhoods to be bussed, you know, across town to actually here in LA, Palisades High. So, and then coming back into the neighborhood, you sure better not tell anybody that you go to Pali High, or you know, basically be called a bitch and whatever. So I was saying, just think about that, you know, that role as a female, and then, you know, having to go through the terrain. So we kind of connected on, you know, a lot of things at that point. and then just the women and the character of Gloria and her relationship with the character of David. It was just to show a single mother and what she has to go through when she doesn't have a lot. I wanted that to be very, like, you know, out there and truthful. And we both spoke about, you know, enhancing the women on the show and the young girls on the show in David's world and how they, you know, interact with him and how they actually help him to grow into as far as David makes man. So, you know, being a showrunner, making sure that, you know, after our conversation, Tarell and I, making sure all those pieces were in place, that we can tell the exact story and leave everything on the, you know, on the cutting room, I mean, on the screen, and be proud of that, you know, in a very specific way.
Michael, as the director of the pilot, you help set the tone for what we actually see, and the show it's so visual, and I think the way that it's been described in like press materials is like it's a lyrical drama, and I think that perfectly.
I mean, I think Oprah called it poetry on TV.
Well, if Oprah says it, you know it's true. One of the things I love is that as someone from South Carolina who calls Atlanta home, I can feel the humidity coming off. Like I watched and I was like, oh. Talk to us about capturing kind of the essence of the actual lived-in space and putting that on screen.
I think, I mean, just on that point of sweat, I know our makeup team got used to me really early on just asking for more. What do you mean more? What do you mean more? Because, you know, on a lot of shows it's usually to look kind of cute and pretty, and I was like, well, this needs to, we're in Florida, it's July. So, I mean, that's, in terms of like trying to capture, I mean, here's the thing, to backtrack again on what Dee just said, it starts with the script. Tarell's writing is, you know, notoriously beautiful, and as a director to get a chance to pick up those tools, play in that sandbox, work with all these beautiful, magical people, it's, you know, it's an honor to be able to do that. It's kind of delicate work. You know, we're looking at trauma, we're looking at childhood, we're looking at all types of different oppression, and then within the middle of that we have this young boy who is in the pilot. It's really, for me, the way that I looked at it and talked about it was that it was a birth. It's kind of bookended by a birth. So to begin with is the death of Sky and how that catalyzes his creative imagination. Trauma can sometimes close down creativity, and we see across the course of this pilot how David fights against that, because his innate creativity is his survival tool. It's going to be the thing which is going to propel him through life and through the season. And then it's bookended at the end by him his birth as a man, really. He draws a line in the sand as to what he will and won't do. How he was with Saren in the scene that you saw is something that he rages against, and you see that in the storm moment at the end. So, you know, there's a whole library of stuff that I could take you through in terms of my intent and the different types of aesthetic choices, lens choices, but they're all designed to make you feel. The thing that I always went back to was, you know, it's a subjective opinion. It's David's emotional trajectory through this. In any given moment when I'm trying to make an aesthetic choice, I'm always trying to find out what does David emotionally feel, and how do I get everyone to feel that with him. So that's, you know, that's really some of the things that I took into it, and I could sit here all day and take you through the whole deck, but yeah, there you go.
One of the things that stuck with me, I think I've seen like 5 or 6 episodes, is, you know, this is a black ass show. It's so black, y'all. It's like blackity black. And so for our cast, I want to know from you all's vantage point, what are some of the things that you think are specific about this story to black people, black communities, but then also who you think the show is for? Go ahead, Alana.
Yeah, you know, so I think the show is for anybody that's walking around in brown skin, and anybody who wants to know more about people walking around in brown skin. One thing that I am so grateful that Tarell McCraney is on this earth. I have known him for a very long time as a friend, and it is rare that somebody that you're close to, you know, you might have a great friend that's a singer or whatever, and you might be like, "Ooh, girl, that's so cute, that's good." But no, like for real, Tarell is one of my favorite artists, and I'm so thankful to God that our gifts serve each other and our blessings to the world. And I feel like whenever I watch anything that Tarell has written, I feel spoken for. Even like the people that I love dearly that walk this work and walk this skin with me, there are things that I don't necessarily understand because everybody is an individual in their culture, right? And yet I feel like Tarell sees everybody in our community, and when he puts them on paper, he's respecting their story in such a way that is honest. I'm going to show you their beauty. I'm going to show you their flaws, but you cannot turn away from the fact that this is a human being, like you, like yourself, and the way that you want somebody to measure you whole, Tarell measures his characters wholly. So I always feel, I walk away loving who I am. I walk away loving who we are. I walk away just wishing everybody well. You know what I'm saying? Like in our own skin, in our own journey, somebody sees us. Tarell sees us and is wishing us well and celebrating us. Whew.
You have the opportunity to act opposite the legend that is Ms. Phylicia Rashad. And one of my favorite Black moments that she has is when she says, "If you can hunt, you can hear." That is literally out of my grandmother's mouth. Talk to me about working with her.
She was amazing. And like days I would be struggling, and she was just always there for me, you know, providing me with wisdom, and I always learned something every time we did like a scene together. Cause she loves to hang, you know, like you wouldn't think like she would be able to always go out, and she was like riding roller coasters with us. Like it was crazy. Yeah.
I love the idea of Miss Phylicia Rashad riding a roller coaster. You know? Like the visual, I'm here for it. Okay, I'm getting the wrap up signal. Last questions for you, Tarell. What can they expect? They haven't seen the episodes I've seen. So tell them what they can expect and why they should tune in and participate in watching this series.
Well, hopefully this started a trajectory in your mind about what David's journey is like. Again, Michael eloquently put it, you saw a birth, you saw a naissance, you saw the big bang of his universe, of his creative universe coming to fore. And over the next 9 episodes, what you see, what you got a glimpse of, even with the run-in with Femi and Starchild, is more on that same journey, that same odyssey, and you get to see this young man go to a place where he has to make. And then again, what's really interesting is that the show takes place chronologically over only about 3 or 4 months. And if that tells you anything, it means that in those 3 or 4 months, you watch a person. I mean, I think. Where is Scout? Scout's here somewhere. There's Scout. Scout, I knew Scout when Scout was this big, and I went away like, 3 years ago. I think the last time I saw her was like 3 or 4 years ago, and now she's a grown person who is starring in a show, in a piece here at Outfest. And that's amazing, but it also tells me just how quickly the young people shift, right? It's so quickly, how quickly they grow. And so you literally get to see David put in place what it means to be a man to him, and we get to watch and see how that plays out. And so you get to come in and watch some more of that world be visually stunning, but also visually heartbreaking, and also have some joy, some fun, some dancing, some sweet dancing and music, because it wouldn't be a Black show without some sweet dancing and music. So yeah, that you come for the learning, but also come to see yourself and everything in it.
With that being said, if you enjoyed it, you want to tell everyone. If you didn't enjoy it, keep it to yourself. It premieres Wednesday, August 14th at 10 p.m. on OWN. We're having a brief reception in the Filmmakers Lounge if you would like to join.